It's phones like these that have roughly the same amount of computing power as a desktop computer from the mid-2000s. But the question remains whether these smartphones are helping people with their productivity, a question especially directed towards students. The state of Oregon has seen a 121% increase in obesity since 1990, which asks the question, what can students do to counteract these growing numbers? With these numbers continuing to grow, it's important that students maintain a healthy lifestyle through fitness and colorful dieting. With Duck TV News, I'm Adam Holmes. Back to you at the studio. The manhunt for the Boston Marathon bombers went into high gear last night. An MIT police officer was killed in a shootout with the suspects, as was one of the bombers. The bombers have been identified as two brothers, 26-year-old Tamerlan Tsarnaev and his 19-year-old brother, Dzhokhar. In other news, the U.S. Senate shot down a bill on Wednesday that would have expanded background checks for gun buyers. The failed legislation was designed to better address mental health issues among would-be gun owners. As reporter John Goodwin has learned, some gun advocates in the Eugene and Springfield area still think background checks need to be strengthened. Thursday morning brought good news for the state of Oregon. Tax revenues are up by more than $270 million compared to the estimates 3 months ago. The projection is one of the best the state has had in years and could mean school districts don't have to lay off any employees this year. Despite the welcome news, Republicans and Democrats are still at odds in creating a state budget. Republicans are pushing for more cuts in the public employee retirement program, while the Democrats are offering smaller cuts in PERS and more taxes for higher income wage earners. Not everyone is a fisherman. For an increasing number of people, skateboarding is the sport of choice. There are an estimated 13 million boarders in America, but only 2,300 parks for them to use. The good news is that there are plans for one of Eugene's local parks to be developed into one of the best of its kind in the nation. The School of Music and Dance is where they honed their voices that took the University of Oregon Chamber Choir halfway across the world. The choir traveled to Ireland not only to compete in the Fleischmann International Trophy competition in Cork, but also to perform in various areas of the country.
Well, the whole tour was about 10 days, so we landed and sang concerts in Dublin and Kells and Loughrea, and then we went to Cork and had 4 days in Cork. So in the 7 or so days that we were singing, we sang, I think, 9 programs in 7 days, which is a lot.
The UO Choir was one of 11 ensembles competing against representatives from 17 countries on May 4th. They sang several different types of pieces, ranging from music composed before 1750 to a piece from each team's home country. In the end, the choir earned a score of almost 93%, narrowly beating Irish and Swedish competition. This was the second time the UO Choir earned high honors at a global competition. The first was at the 12th International Choir Festival in Estonia in 2011. Not expecting to get first place, the choir members were overwhelmed with excitement upon hearing the news.
There was a lot of screaming for about 2.5 minutes straight. They kind of expected us to be yelling. We were one of the loudest groups there, and it was just pure excitement. Like, everyone was just out of their chairs, jumping and hugging each other. It was a really, really incredible moment.
Even if we hadn't won, it would have been still an incredible experience being there, but we were crying and screaming, and then we had to sing afterwards, which wasn't necessarily the most fun, but...
As the season comes to a close, Paul and the choir are already planning for next year, hoping to compete in the competition again in 2015.